evening, everybody.
Last night, round 3.
So I hope everybody's had a good day. Today is our last night, and I know there was quite a few of you that said beforehand they would not be able to watch the live, but that's okay. You can watch the replay. So it's not going to be as long. I feel like the few things that we have left to show you, it's not like you have to watch me do the entire, or Jamie do the entire buffet. We're going to give little demonstrations. So I think we're going to start with talking about top coats. When you're completely done, I recommend, if you use water, you don't have to sand as much. Something when the water hits the paint, it does soften it quite a bit. I like to stay away from sanding as much as possible. But if I do a sanding, it would be very quick, straight, and that's basically it. And that really made it pretty soft, just doing that. The top, I would do the same thing, just long, one strokes, not back and forth. And I like to use at least a 220 or higher. After you wax or do your varnish, you can do the same type of sanding. The last coat, the higher you go, sometimes I'll do 1000 grit if you want to get a really soft finish. The varnish, I always recommend that you do at least 2 coats. And what me and Jamie decided to do tonight, so that you can get a feel of both, we're going to varnish the top and we're going to wax the doors so that you can see what that looks like. As far as a wax, I, at this point, only recommend Annie Sloan's clear wax, brown wax, or black wax for a top coat. If you ever wanted to use the black or the brown, you always have to use clear first. There always has to be a barrier before you start going into colored waxes. Not so much the gilding wax. If you want to do some detail, you don't have to, but if you're ever going to use a black wax or a brown wax, you definitely want a barrier, and you put the clear wax on first, and then you do your colored. You don't ever want to do clear again, because wax removes wax. So, that being said, Annie Sloan's does not yellow. It's very easy to work with, and we'll show you. The biggest suggestion I make is to have a big floppy brush. Honestly, this one does lose a lot of bristles, but it's wax. We get this right at, I got this right at Lowe's. But Annie Sloan does have nice ones, but you don't want a short bristle, you want a big floppy one that's pretty movable. I suggest to use a brush because it can be very, it's almost a workout if you try to use a cloth to apply it. You want to apply with a brush, and we're going to buff with a paper towel or the shop cloths. So let's just concentrate on the wax right now, and then we'll get to the varnish. So Jamie's going to demonstrate. I'm going to move the camera closer, and Jamie's going to demonstrate pretty much just on this door down the wax. So if you're there and you have any questions, you can ask on that demonstration. So I'm going to move her in without moving this camera too bad. So if you're having a hard time seeing, you can swipe. Was it to the left, Jamie, or to the right? And then you won't see.
To the right.
If you swipe to the right, you won't see the comments, and then you'll be able to see the entire down to the legs.
So you just put a little onto a paper plate, and you don't want to put too much onto your brush.
Yes, less is best.
You can always go back and add more.
And you want to put it on a plate because whenever you re-dip either in this jar with wax or paint or anything, you're actually contaminating whatever's on your brush. So you always want to kind of take out what you're not using, because I have a bad habit of always re-dipping, and it's really not good. So you can put some on the paper plate first.
Yeah, and you don't have to press too hard. So you're just gonna...
It's just a light sweep.
And you want to try to keep the motion in the same direction, right?
Yeah. So it's really just a dusting. The gold that you're seeing on the buffet we applied last night, it's actually, it's not a wax, it's a paint that I have that's very, it's kind of transparent and it kind of gives that wax look. Without dealing with it coming off.
You can always go back to spots too.
So you want to do sections at a time.
So
You don't
should I
want to
write
do the
that?
whole thing and then go back and buff. No, you could do the legs, Jamie. I would go all the way down and then go back up and buff. Can everybody see that okay? Oh, I am so sorry. A lot of times I do it this way, I'll wax the bottom and varnish the top, because the top is the part that's going to get used the most. But you're more than welcome to varnish down here too. You know, there's no... I've done it both ways.
I may need more on here now.
Julie has a question. What is the difference between wax and varnish? Varnish is a hard coat. It's a clear, non-porous. And wax is oil-based. Our varnish is water-based. And wax is oil-based. And it's more like a water repellent. It does seal the paint. Some people feel that you eventually will at some point have to re-wax. I've never had that happen before. But the wax does harden or does cure after 30 days. And a varnish pretty much dries within a few hours. I kind of feel everything cures in 30 days. This is just my experience. We talked about yellowing, we talked about bleed through. No matter what, no matter how clear your varnish is, no matter how whatever, you cannot trust it 100%. So like with this buffet, I get a little nervous putting varnish on because I know that I can do all the right things and still get a little bleed through and it looks horrible on gray. With Annie Sloan's clear wax, I don't have to worry about it. It's never going to bleed. And that's why sometimes I will choose Annie Sloan's wax over varnish when I'm doing gray or white. You never want to use wax in a kitchen only because it is porous, I feel. And especially with heat, you don't want it to, like, I think if it was sitting in the sun or something, it could start to reactivate it. I've never experienced that. I hope I'm helping. There's a lot of, chemically, I don't really know what the difference is. It's just, you can tell by looking at it, it's different. Wax has got a waxy consistency, and varnish is clear and it dries hard. But me and Jamie are noticing through here, because it was a very dark wood, we're noticing 2 spots, and it's like a dot of pink, and that makes me nervous. And wax, I'm not going to have to worry about any discoloring. The varnish I want to do the top with, only because that's probably going to get a lot of more wear and tear, and I want it to be more durable. And I did do a tester on the side here. I did a tester over here on the side, and it did not yellow. But at the end of the day, the varnish is more durable. The varnish is, you know, is a harder surface. It's a more durable surface. So you're going to need it for like a tabletop, or, you know, this kind of top. Anything where people are going to be working on it, you're going to want to do that. Like if you're doing that dresser, this is why when it's not a custom order, because once you start getting into customs, these are things that you just want to remember and know, because I sometimes discourage people. White, if you give me a mahogany dresser and you want it white, I have to warn them that they may get bleed through. I could do all the right things and they still may get it. But if I have a mahogany dresser,
She's asking about the Valspar product.
have you ever used the, yeah, don't ever use that. Have experience, yes I do, don't ever use it. I use the Valspar, honestly, one time I used the Valspar wax, and it took the paint right off. And I had somebody else experience the same thing. I stay away from Valspar, and even though I love Rust-Oleum, if you want to go for an inexpensive paint, Rust-Oleum's my favorite. I love their colors, it's durable. You can do this washing with no problem. But don't use their clear, what is it called?
Oh.
It's called a top coat.
Top coat, yeah.
Rust-Oleum has a top coat. And one time I did something with it, and it was fine. I probably sat in here for a couple weeks. It looked great. And I went and stored it. I wrap everything that I do. Once I know it's in good to go, I wrap it and I store it away. And somebody bought it. And this is a true story. And they bought it, and they were coming, and I pulled it out, and all the top coat was coming right off. It was literally an hour and a half before they got here, and I had to take a sander out and sand it off. And let me tell you, it was coming off in sheets. It was just flaking right off. So I don't know if I did something wrong, but I like simple. If I have to do any more steps than what I've been showing you guys, I kind of don't want any part of it. But a lot, you just have you know, test it. Get those little pieces of wood and test it. There are people that like that product. I just don't. You know, there are people that love General Finishes. I'm going to be honest with you, I can't stand it. But there are diehard General Finish people that I do use it for Mid-Century, because it has a very shiny. It's a milk paint. It's just got a shinier finish to it, and I think people that like Mid-Century modern are going to want that. But I really don't like using it. I don't like working with it. So this is nice and smooth. This came out good. It's a little muscle. You do have to use a little muscle for it, but you don't put too much on. I hope that helped, Julie. The difference between wax and varnish, top coat or varnish. This is Annie Sloan's.
Yeah, it just,
Yeah.
Here, showing that it may.
Yeah, you can show her it. It kind of looks like,
wax.
I know, but I'm trying to think of something else. So this is what it looks like. I just use this to puff it out. So it's just a wax. And less is best. You think it didn't go on. It's actually, when she's putting it on, you think it's not even going on. It did. So this is Annie Sloan's. Never yellows, never gives me a hard time. Once I realized how to use it. So, while we're in this mode, before I get to the top coat that we use,
Crisco.
this is that gilding wax we talked about. I felt like the colors I had were not going to look nice on this buffet. So what I did is I finished a drawer in black, and I finished it with a top coat of our Wise Owl that we're going to be putting on the top of here. Just so I could show you how this works and how you can dress up a drawer. Or, yes, it looks like Crisco. Thank you. Yes, that's exactly what it looks like. Good. So, I'm going to try to figure out a way to do this so that you can see this.
Do you need me to hold something?
Maybe you could hold the drawer, Jamie, just so we can hold it up to, and you can hold it like this so they can kind of see for me like that. I'm just going to tip this camera up just a little tiny bit if I can. Oh, I can never do a little tiny bit. Okay, so this is like this is a drawer that has a little detail, but it's flatter. It's got a flatter edge, and this is maybe something that I would do. Now this, you just stick your finger in there. Some people use a brush. I don't know how. Actually, I don't even like this color. That one's kind of getting old. All right, so here's copper. And what I do is I just take it on my finger. I just put a little bit on my finger. And I just run my finger down the edge. You can do whatever you want, but this is just stuff that I do. I don't know if you see that little bit. And then I'll take it and I want it to kind of bleed out. And I may make the corner a little fatter. If you put too much on, you can always use clear wax. Before it dries, because once it dries, that's it. And then, if I hold the drawer like this, Jane, can you see that?
She said she can.
Okay. So then, because I can never stop with this stuff, so if you see these lines right here, I got it on my finger, and I don't look for any and I don't do anything perfect. I may take my finger and put it right inside that. Now see how I went up too far? I just took some clear wax. Now watch, it'll make a liar out of me. No.
Yeah.
And clear wax will take it back off. You may have to use a little elbow grease, but it'll... And then I'll give it a little buff. And then maybe I'll take you know, you saw that knob we did last night. You know what I mean? And then that'll be in there. Let me see if I can just screw that in a little bit so you can kind of see what I mean. So, and it just gives a little pop to the drawer.
She's asking if this is applied after the wax or varnish.
This would be your last step. So if I want to make the doorknob match, I put it right on the middle. Now, when it's done, you may have to wait, like after I get it on there, you want just to do a light buff, and that kind of seals it a little bit. But I want to say over a little time, you want to just kind of go back and buff it, and it'll eventually dry. But like maybe a day later, you may go like this and still get a little bit on a towel. So, but this would be applied, this would be your last step, and you wouldn't put anything over this, you would leave it just like that. But these are just little things you can do. Now, if you have something like this, see how I put that paint in there? You could put that on your finger, run it right down, and it's just gonna grab whatever's raised. I could actually go like this and it would kind of outline that thing. I mean, I don't think I would do that on this particular piece. Or even like these little crevices, if I went like that, it would go right into the... You can just take your finger and run it on these little petals. I've done that too. If you go through our Etsy page, you're going to see a lot of stuff that looks like it has metal on it, and 9 times out of 10, it's that wax. So, and I think Jamie put a link on where to find them. I think I bought this last year, right, Jamie?
Yeah.
I think these jars have lasted me a year. And I'm more of a gold person than a silver, but I do have silver. And for some reason, I don't know why, the silver, well, no, not this one. So like, no. Jamie, what are some things you can use this stuff on?
Other than furniture? Or just other
Well, I mean, when yeah.
Like on the mirrors, when the mirrors have like
Yes. Good example.
that detail. I don't know what it's called, but
Here's some that's like this is a mix. I'm not saying that looks good, I'm just showing you that's the silver. So, do you have any questions on that? Any more questions on that before I go forward? This is supply. So what is on the buffet what's on the buffet is, this is probably my favorite second metal. Could you get that for me, Jamie, that champagne gold? You can get this right at Hobby Lobby. Like, I'll tell you when you shouldn't, like Annie Sloan, don't go get less wax than that. The wax, same thing. But this, right at Hobby Lobby, these are my favorite metal. You can get it in silver, champagne gold. You can get it in copper. There's another gold.
we have them in all different colors.
But what I love about this, I just take a little brush, that little round brush that I used yesterday to put the white on. I just put it on there, and I don't do anything perfect. I just ran it right down there and just let it grab where it wanted to grab. And it dries very quickly, and it's on there for life. It's good. And I added a little bit. I put it right down here. I ran it up here. And the reason I like it, it's a little transparent, so it's not like, it's not really heavy. And I like a lot of washy looking. So I put a little bit here. And then where I wanted it a little bit more pronounced, I made rings here, if you see that, I just did it around and these are all the little things that make your piece stand out. There's so many people that just don't take the time to do just that little bit of detail. And I also did it on the top of the buffet, on that little scallop piece. But see how it's very subtle? It's not like in your face gold. Okay, so I'll have Jamie if you want to write that down, I'll let it sit in this for a little bit. It's called, it's from Deco Art, which a lot of times Hobby Lobby has 50% off. I've had this forever too. I think this has lasted me a year. You only need a very little bit. I water it down a little bit. And you don't wipe it back off like I do the white paint. You're just gonna, just apply it and it goes on very, very light. Okay? You good with that? Everybody good with that? If you're not watching this live and you look up and you don't see the live red, you can ask any questions on the replay if you're not here tonight. So, we're going to move on, and Jamie's going to hold the camera while I do the varnish. The tools that you're going to want. This is our Wise Owl varnish. I like the matte finish. You almost can't even see it. The champagne gold. Yeah, that I would put on before. That's not the same as the wax. So that I would put on before my final stages. Yes, that you need to seal. Actually, I mean, I don't put it on last. I put it on, yeah, it's water-based. I put this on and then I seal it with the rest of everything. So the only thing that you can't, you got it? Okay, so the only thing is when you hear the word wax. You can't put this over wax because wax is oil-based. So oil always goes last. Water always goes first. The only thing I have, there is a product out there, because in the beginning I used to really like to put the dark wax on my tabletops. And I did find one product that you can put over wax. The only downfall of that is sometimes it'll dry in an hour, and me and Jamie have had it where sometimes it takes, I think it was almost 3 weeks to dry, so I don't really recommend that route. But if you're ever getting that pinch, there is a product out there, but just avoid that. So the other product outside of this one is polyacrylic by Minwax, and that's what I used before this. But the polyacrylic I could not use on white or gray or light colors, or it would yellow every time. This, so far, has not yellowed, but I always proceed cautiously. But this is what I'm going to use tonight on my top. I always do a tester. You're going to need 2 foam brushes. Remember the Gen. Make sure it's nothing else but Gen because they fall apart. But these leave no streaks. You don't see any brush marks. And I always have 2 because I'm going to apply with one, and I'm going to catch my my drips with the second, with the dry one.
Okay, I'm just gonna move you guys.
She's going to move you slowly so you can see the top. Should I turn that fan off?
Yeah, let's do it here.
Okay. So, I'm just going to bring a little table over here because I get nervous. I have a habit of dropping things. So I want something to be able to sit. The one thing I do honestly wish Wise Owl would do different is I can't stand these big plastic tubs, but this is super easy. A little bit goes a long way, but I always try to. So I probably would start kind of along here and then hit the detail with whatever's on my brush. You don't want to just take a big gump and just start going on the detail because that's going to be hard to get off. I'm gonna tell you one thing about this particular brand is it dries really fast. So Jamie, I'm gonna have to keep moving. I try to kind of finish my entire, I don't like to stop midway because I don't want you to see that brush mark.
You know, I wonder if it'd be better to sit up here.
Another thing is you don't want to over white, you don't want to over brush either. Because it, like I said, it dries fast and then you'll get like skid marks. You don't have to be afraid of it, but I'm just giving you those little tips. I actually was going to do. So then when I'm done, I kind of take it when I think it's going to start to dry and do one swipe. So there's no stop and go. Jamie, I'm probably going to need a little bit more. You want to go with the grain of the wood. Sometimes I'll go this direction, but just make sure your last swipe is all up and down.
Good.
Thank you. It goes on really super easy. And after your first coat, you're going to feel like you miss spots, and that's why the second coat is so important. It'll just finish it off. So then you always want to make sure you end with and then I just try to maybe get under here, just run it just underneath this lip a little bit in the end. And then you just check it. This is not that big of a piece to do, but if you're doing a table, sometimes the more you keep applying, putting this on your brush, you'll start to get a lot of drips. I'm sorry, I can tell I missed here. If this leaves any drip marks, they're like little beads of glass. And then you're probably going to need a razor blade to get it off. So if you can avoid and make sure you don't have any drips, it just makes it easier in the long run. I always go flat first. Like if I was going to go down something that has detail like this, and then I would just run my corner in the crevices. And I would run around up over the top of this. Anybody else open their mouth when they do this stuff? I can tell. I can feel the tension in my mouth. Yeah. Just make sure I hit all this detail. It's really quite easy. This will be pretty much dry in a couple hours. I'll probably do my second coat tomorrow. So it's very easy, and you see there's no shine. There's no shine at all.
Sorry.
You can barely tell.
Totally making you dizzy right now. I'm trying to show you something. So like right here, I don't know if you could see that drip. If we leave that alone, it will dry just like that.
Where is it?
Right there.
Oh, okay, yes. So that's what the dry one's for. Because what
So you
happens is as your brush starts getting really full, you can keep wiping it and it's just going to keep dripping off the brush, if that makes any sense. Here's another one.
Yeah. But that's what it looks like wet.
Yeah, you really can't even tell it's on.
Sorry if I made you dizzy.
If you go back in our tutorial, like, I can't even say me and Jamie do tutorials, but if you go back in our videos, way back, I want to say maybe, it may have been like last year at this time, we did a, I think it may be fast, in fast mode, but we did do a video of us stripping with,
Oh yeah, on the tables.
yeah, a lot of times my buffets I strip the top.
Should
Very-
we show her what we strip with, or do we have any? We may not even have any.
Yeah, it's called Citrus. You may have seen it. It's usually in most of the hardware stores. But this is really the first, I think this is the first buffet I've done
Maybe
the top.
the second, yeah.
So that's pretty much it. I mean, there's a lot I can tell you about, but I can't think of it right now. And I'm kind of just going around about this buffet in particular. And but you know, in your journey, if you run into anything, you know, me and Jamie are here. If you want to bounce something off of us, because you know we were there when we didn't know, and we just want to help you out. So I hope you got a lot of information, and the few of you that I know have a business, don't take offense to this because I think we discussed it. I'm gonna send you an email on that Flipping Furniture for Profit on Facebook. It is a couple $100 and maybe $300. I'm not quite sure, but she has so much information. She teaches you how to stage. She talks about pricing, how to price, and all kinds of stuff. She talks a lot about shipping, Pinterest. She goes over Pinterest a little bit, like even just right down to showing you how to show up your I'm so sorry, it's late. How to set up your Pinterest account, how to set up your Instagram account, how to set up your just basic things like that. That for me was very difficult. Jamie's better at it than I am, but that
time
helps us.
consuming.
It's time consuming,
So it's nice
and
that there's two of us.
they also have different platforms to sell your things on. It's called Furnish. I don't know if you've seen it. We're part of Furnish, and that's how why my photos. I think my photos are pretty nice, and I'm not even a photographer. It's not my thing. It stresses me out every time I do it, but I follow through and I do it because so many people are doing this right now. So you need your piece to stand out when people are scrolling through all these platforms. They're scrolling through hundreds and hundreds of photos, and you want them to stop in their tracks. And it's all marketing on colors and the way you have it set up, and also, you know, do these extra detail things. You saw it did not take me much time. It did not take me much effort, but I do think it makes you stand out, and that's what you need to do in this market, is you need to stand out and get yourself. I think she does Etsy accounts too, right? Does she do Etsy accounts in that program, Flipping Furniture?
That's what we did last. Yeah.
Not in the boot camp. I'm talking about that main program that I bought.
I think she touches on it. Yeah.
Yeah. You can even email them and ask them because they're very, very good at even just answering. But whatever you pay, it's yours forever. It's like a book you get and it's yours. So me and Jamie when something came up, like we didn't ship at first for a really long time. We didn't do customs for a really long time until I felt more comfortable painting for other people. It really stressed me out, the thought of it. But when that time came, we read her part on customs, and she has contracts for you to have them sign. It's all written out for you. It's all done for you. So it's just, those things to me is worth the money, because we wouldn't even know the first thing on how to make a contract or even think of it really. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. We're here for you in the long run, and thanks for joining us these 3 nights in a row. And good luck to you. Good luck to every one of you. God bless you, and thanks again. Have a good night.
Have a good night.